At this point, I would like to bring up Amanda Haddock from Haddock Computer. Most of you know Amanda. She was one of the founding forces of ASMC and ran our events for many, many years. And Amanda, here you go.
Thanks. I'm not used to being on stage. Usually I'm back there somewhere doing stuff, so this is a little weird for me. There's a lot of new faces out here. It's really cool to see how this organization is growing. So a lot of you probably don't know me and haven't seen me because we've been largely out of the picture for the last 2 years. The reason for that is my son, who was 16, was diagnosed with a pretty aggressive form of malignant brain cancer 2 years ago, glioblastoma multiforme. And he was initially given about 8 months to live. We went to a hospital on kind of an emergent basis. They went in and did surgery. And the guy said, yeah, you know, your son's gonna die, basically. And I don't know how many of you are parents, but that wasn't a very acceptable answer to me. We got him out of that hospital as quickly as we could, went to a different hospital that had a lot more hope for his future. Unfortunately, the statistics were correct that brain cancer is a nasty disease. His particular form has no real good treatment and no cure. David enrolled in a clinical trial that was a vaccine. He did really well. He did really well actually throughout his treatment. That's actually a picture of him right before he was diagnosed, but he looked like that most of the time that he was being treated. He felt pretty good. He had some minor memory losses, but cognitively, he was himself. And we were very fortunate in that because most people who are diagnosed with brain tumors immediately start having major issues. And cognitively, it changes their thinking process. It changes who they are. And we were able to keep David until pretty close to the end. So we were very thankful for that. And as you can probably tell, David did pass away in May. And one of the things that I learned from him in his 20-month battle is that he grew up a lot and he really wanted to make a difference. He was always the first to volunteer for whatever experimental treatment they were doing, whatever tests, whatever studies. They would come in and go, hey, David, because he was always smiling, hey, David, would you mind doing this for us? And he never asked any of the questions that I would have asked, which were, is that going to hurt, or does that take a long time? The only question he ever asked them was, is that going to help other people? Because he knew that he was terminal. And they would usually say yes, and he would then say yes. And so we learned through him that he really wanted to make a difference. And he did, both while he was here and still now. We donated his brain. His brain and his tumor tissue to science, so they're doing research with that tissue. Hopefully that'll make a difference. But one of the things that we learned is not only are they really close to making some breakthroughs with brain cancer, which would be great because they haven't had any major ones in 30 years, and there's very, very passionate people working on it. We learned that the people that have brain cancer are not able to get up here and speak for themselves. Either cognitively, they're just not capable of doing it, or they are afraid of doing it because there are a handful. Survival rate is about 10%, just so you know. And that 10% is pretty afraid of getting up and telling people that they have brain cancer because they still have to have jobs so that they can have health insurance. And so it's not something that they willingly go around and tell people because they're afraid of, if I do survive for 2 or 3 years, how is this going to affect me down the road? So it really is a very silent population, and they really do need people to advocate on their behalf, especially well-spoken people like you guys. Not me so much, but so there's a couple of things that we can do that would make a really huge difference for this community, and one of them is super easy. You can do it today. Where did Kevin go? Do you have a link? It's at the end. Okay. Yeah. So there's a link that we'll put up in a second, and it's just to a website for the National Brain Tumor Society. They ask you, I think, your name and your zip code and your email address, and it puts you on a mailing list. You'll get a mailing about once a month. Most of them don't ask you to do anything, but occasionally there will be some piece of legislation that they would like you to write your congressman about. And so they give you a form letter. You can put, dear so-and-so, and it fills it all in for you. Or you can add, your personal anecdote if you'd like. So that's easy. It's something that, if you guys are so inclined, we would really super appreciate you being able to join us with that. And then there's another thing that's maybe not quite so easy, but is potentially a lot more fun and would have a lot more impact, not just for the brain tumor community, but also for your business and your community at large. And so I'm going to turn this over to Kevin.
Thank you, Amanda.